Levi.
Okay, Dale. This week's Parsha, towards the end, teaches us, Vayi be'etahi, vayomer Avimelech lepikol, tzar tzva'o el Avraham, v'emo, Elokim itcha b'kol asher ata oseh, v'ata hishava li be'elokim. So here, the king of the Philistine comes to Avram Avinu after he's living in their land for many years, and he says, let's make a covenant between us. V'yikach Avraham tzon ubaka, v'yiten Avimelech, v'yechut shneim brit. And so they did. They made a covenant between them, a brit between him and his sons and his grandchildren and his ninin, his great-grandchildren. Yafet. Right after that, we have the story of the Akedah. Vayhi achrei hadrim ha'ela. The Rashbam, the grandson of Rashi, in his commentary on the Parsha, teaches us shekol makom shenema achrei hadrim ha'ela mechaber leparsha shelefanav. Meaning there's a connection between what we just read over here in the Parsha about the covenant that Avram Avinu made with the Akedat Yitzchak. And he brings down over here a couple of examples of how each time this expression is used, this terminology is used in the Torah, it's always a connection between the previous subject that was over here. And so he continues and teaches us that the connection between Avram Avinu making a covenant with Melech Pelishtim and the Akedah are connected in that it was, so to speak, a punishment for Avraham Avinu. And so he writes. V'chara afo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu became very, very angry. She'eretz Pelishtim nitan la'Avraham. Eretz Pelishtim is part of Eretz Canaan. It's part of Eretz Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu tziva, and Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded us in the Torah, lo techia kol neshama. All of the souls must be wiped out of the seven nations. Meaning they have the same din, the same law as Amalek, the seven nations that live in Eretz Yisrael. Umikan Elokim nisa et Avraham. And here we see that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave a test to Avraham. The two are connected because he made this brit between him and his children and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. And what happens over here? The Rashbam continues to tell us, and because of this covenant that Avram Avinu made with the Melech Pelishtim, with the 7 kvasim, Aron Abrit, Hayab Esadei Pelishtim Sheva Chodeshim, for 7 months in the time of Eli HaKohen, after the defeat by the Jews, by the hands of the Philistines, the Aron Habrit was in the field of the Philistine for 7 months. Goes on to tell us that there'll be 7 milchamot, beinecha ubein banav, mean between the Philistines and the Jewish people. V'nitzratchim otcha, and they will be victorious over you. 7 wars they will win, will have the upper hand. Davar acher, yarog shevet tzadikim, 7 righteous people will be killed by the hands of the Philistines because of this covenant which you made. And they are Shimshon, Chafni, and Pinchas, the 2 sons of Eli Kohen, Shaul, v'shlosha banim. Davar acher, yichravu sheva mizbechot, 7 altars will be destroyed because of this covenant that you made. Ol Moed, Gilgal, Nov, Shiloh, Givon, Ubeit Olamim, Beis HaMikdash, the first and the second one, comes out to 7 mizbechot. 7 sanctuaries will be destroyed because of this covenant. We find over here, and the Rashbam isn't just coming from his own de'ah, but he's brought down his basisim on midrashim, which comes to teach us about the significance over here of Avram Avinu making a covenant, giving up land of Eretz Yisrael, which doesn't really belong to Avram Avinu. Kadosh Baruch Hu promised that the land would be given to the Jewish people. And how is it possible that you go and take it and make a covenant? You make a brit with Umot Olam, with the nations of the world, was something that belongs to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, who has given to the Jewish people and not to you. So we see this harsh punishment upon Abraham and his descendants. But it even goes even further than that. There's a wonderful midrash that tells us that because of this covenant, the covenant with the nations, it delays the Gula process. The midrash tells us, Amad David lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kama chayim oivim shalanu nimshechim. How long is the life of our enemies? Shel Avraham Avinu sheva dorot, ve'Elimelech melech Plishtim shlosha dorot. So Avraham, it was 7 generations: Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kahat, Amram, and Moshe. And by the Philistine, it was only 3 generations. They lived a long time, unfortunately, and that's why when the Jewish people left Egypt, it says, "V'lo lachu otam eretz Philistine." God didn't take us by the land of Philistine, ki karofu, which of course we're all familiar with. Rashi, it tells us that we may see the Philistine and we'll become frightened and we'll run back to Mitzrayim. But according to this midrash over here, ki karofu comes to teach us Krovim shel Elimelech were still alive. The descendants of Elimelech were still alive. And even though if we would have been able to go Derech Eretz Plishtim, we could have been Eretz Yisrael in a very short period of time. Things would have been totally different. But because the descendants of Elimelech were still alive at the time, it was forbidden because of the covenant that Avraham Avinu made, which was enforced by Yitzchak and Yaakov afterwards. We were forbidden to go through Eretz Plishtim. We find from this, especially in our days of turbulence, that Am Yisrael is Am Shoshochen Levad, right? Our koach is from a nation that dwells alone. That's our beauty, that's our bracha. And not to have a covenant with other nations, with other people who direct us and tell us what we have to do and what we can't do, and we can do this and we can't do that, etc. Am Yisrael, when we're alone and we're just with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, no one could stop us. And that's the lesson that we have to learn over here from this week's Parsha. That whatever the promises is for peace, for this, for that, a covenant to give up land in Eretz Yisrael is something that's totally forbidden. So we should hear B'tzorot Tovot, Yeshuot V'Nechamot, B'ezrat Hashem, and we should have a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levi. Okay, same time, same place, Sunday night. Everybody have a great Shabbat.